A very good evening, my dear students. Today we are starting with the new topic in Python programming language. The title is Type Conversion in Python. So today you will learn about many different type of data type conversions, how we can convert a particular data of one type like integer into floating point or some character into string type. We will also discuss few basic fundamentals of Python programming language in this lecture. So let's start with a very brief introduction of Python programming language. Python is a high level programming language. First of all, as I covered in my previous classes, that nowadays the languages which we are using are high level programming languages. C language is the very first high level programming language, or you can say it is the mother of all high level programming languages. So Python is a high level programming language which is interpreted in nature. The very first property of Python is interpreted, which means it is processed at runtime by the interpreter. So as we know, C language has a compiler in itself. It contains a compiler. If you are using Turbo C language compiler, then the Turbo CPP compiler is used. If you are using Borland C compiler, every C programming language contains a compiler which convert the source code, whether written in C language or C++ language, into an intermediate object code while we compile the program. But in Python, there is no such process of compilation required. In Python, we directly run the program and the interpreter convert the source code directly into the executable code, means .exe. But in the C or other C++ like programming languages, they need the compilation separately to convert the source code into an intermediate object code and then object code into an executable code. So this is one of the features that Python takes less time during compilation, during interpretation of the program. Second advantage of Python is it is interactive in nature. Today we are covering the type conversion in Python. There you can understand the use of interpreted and interactive feature of Python programming language. So you can use a Python prompt and interact with the interpreter directly to write your program. As you know, when you are writing a program in any high level programming language, you need an editor. Editor is the place where you can write your source code, and then you have to compile this source code. Generally in C or C++ programming languages, we write the source code within the inbuilt editor of the language given. We do not use any external editor to write our source code. But in the languages like Java, we use a separate editor, whether it can be a notepad editor or WordPad editor, to write our source code. Then we set the path of the Java C compiler with the source code .java file. But in Python, you can use a Python prompt. Python prompt is a runtime place or runtime environment where you directly write the program and interact with the interpreter, which simply convert the .py file, that is our .python file, into .exe file. So now the next feature is object oriented. The third feature of Python programming language is that it is object oriented in nature. Now you have studied C programming language, which is not an object oriented programming language, but C++ and Java both are object oriented programming languages. The Python supports all the object oriented features of C++ and Java programming languages. It can support the concept of creation of classes. It can support the concept of creation of objects of a particular class. The different object oriented features like polymorphism, inheritance, data binding, etc., encapsulation, all these object oriented features are also supported by Python. So you can say It is easier than C and C++ programming language, but it has all the functionalities of object-based programming language as well as object-oriented programming language, plus additional features which are the USP of Python, or you can say universal selling points of Python, which makes it as a global language nowadays. And various IT companies or other than IT big giant companies are using Python to develop their application software, to develop their system software. So these companies are using the features of Python like machine learning, data analytics, business intelligence. All these kind of features or functionalities like data mining can be implemented with the help of Python programming language. Now the last but not the least, the feature is it is a beginner's language. If you have not done any programming before starting the Python programming language, you can easily start with this language because it is generally termed as beginner's language. Beginner language means it is a great language for the beginner level programmer. Means you basic concept of programming you know very well, like every programming language needs some control structure, some loops, some conditionals, some data types are required, how to declare a variable. If you know the basics of any programming language, then you can directly start using the Python because its code is very easy to write as compared to other programming languages. Simply you can say its syntax is very easy to understand. There is no such hard and fast syntax is required to write the, or you need to learn to write the program in Python programming language. A simple Java program, if it is taking at 10 lines of code to simply print your name on the screen, Python take only one line. No header file, no packages are required to import, no need to understand about any typical case sensitive syntax of any kind of programming languages. You simply start with the user friendly syntax of programming language. It supports the development of a wide range of application. As I already told you, Python supports the development of real-time problems, real-time objects or models. You can use the concepts of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data mining, business intelligence, big data. All these kind of concepts or applications can be implemented with a very easy syntax of Python programming language. So these are the four functionalities of the Python, which is a high level programming languages. The languages like Fortran, Pascal, these are nowadays outdated languages. They were middle level languages, and before the middle level languages were the assembly languages like microprocessor 8086 assembly language. So nowadays the uniform interpreter available to write the source code in any language, to simply compile it and to execute. Python is a great choice for beginners, for expert programmers who want to make a model or want to write a source code for real-time objects. That is why Python is very popular. So in your exam, generally a question comes on this topic: write the functionalities or features or advantages of Python over other languages. So you can cover all these points there. Now I will show you a simple program to print your name. One code is to print your name in Java programming language and another to print your name in Python programming language. You need to calculate the minimum number of lines required or minimum number of source lines of code. You need to print your name, and the syntax complexity you need to understand. As like you see here, Python and Java both are object oriented programming languages. So they support the concept of classes, but in Java you cannot do anything without creating a class. The minimum requirement to write anything, any source of code in Java is to create a class for it. So as you can see here, public class hello world. So this is the name of the class which I am creating. This hello world class is the class which has a public access specifier. Access specifier are of three types: public, private as well as protected. It is mandatory to declare the main class as with public access classifier. So now this file will be stored with the name hello world .java. The name of the file should be same as the name of the class. You can write this source code in simple notepad editor and you can run with the compiler Java C. Java C is the compiler which is used to compile the code, and Java is the interpreter which is used to execute the code. So public class hello world, then you need to define the main function. A curly braces also starts from here. Public static void main, within the bracket string argument. It is a one-dimensional array with empty number of parameters. S should be capital in nature. The syntax should be public static void main. So you need to define the function as public static void main. You need to follow this syntax, and the case sensitivity of the alphabets written within the brackets, because Java programming language has a very hard syntax to understand or to learn or to practice, and it is also case sensitive in nature. Then again the brackets start system.out.println, then the message which you want to print on the screen. So here S should be capital, print ln should be there for the new line character. In C, this particular line is written like printf. In C++, this is written with the help of cout. So printf, cout, these are the functions which are used to print something in C language or C++ programming language. But here in Java, system.out.println is used, then the main function bracket close, at last the bracket of public class hello world will be closed. So there are 7 number of lines here, minimum number of lines are 7. So you need to define at least 7 number of lines with a case sensitive and hard syntax to print your name or any simple alphabet string. But in Python, this is the source code to print your name. Only one line syntax is required, and you can see the name of the function. In Java, system.out.println. In C, printf. In C++, cout. But in Python, print. Only print is required. Simply type print, and within the bracket, within the curly braces, within the inverted commas, you write the name of the string which you want to print. Only one line of source code is required to print your name. No header files are required to import, no packages are required to import. So 70% less source code is used here in Python programming language instead of Java code. So this is the basic difference between Python and Java. Now I will cover one by one the detailed comparison of Python with Java. This slide is very important. It will cover all the differences of Python with Java. Very first is Python has dynamic typing, and which is weak in nature. Today we are doing typecasting, so we'll cover how we typecast the parameters in Python. But dynamic means it simply provides you the runtime interface. At runtime, you can use the source code to simply convert it into the executable code. But Java needs static typing, but that is strong in nature. This is one of the advantage of Java, that it has strong typing. So it provides you, because it is case sensitive, it is hard in syntax, so it is more powerful in typing. But the constraint here is that no runtime support is required for typing. But in Python, dynamic typing functionality is available. Second comparison, it does not require declaration of variable before usage. This is the main advantage of using Python. No need to declare the variable. When you need a variable, you simply type its name and start using it. no need to define the data type of the variable, no need to define the header file for the data types, no need to first declare the variable, then define the variable, then use the variable, as like in C or C++ or Java. Here simply you just use the variable at runtime. No wastage of memory is required, no allocation and deallocation of variable is required in Python, but it is must really required in C, C++ or Java. So this is the second comparison of Python and Java. Third one is it allows change of data type of a variable during runtime. This is the main functionality. You can change the data type of a variable at runtime itself. Means first you want to store the data in integer type, but now you feel that your data is a floating point, you need some decimal values. So at runtime you simply store the floating point value in the data variable and it automatically change its data type. Like first you have stored a variable a with value 7. Now you change it with 7.5. Automatically at runtime itself, the data type of variable a will be changed from integer to floating point. But this functionality is not available in Java programming language. The data type which you have already defined at the compile time or at the time of writing your source code, that can be simply used in runtime. It cannot be changed as per the dynamic requirement. So it is more dynamic in nature, Python, but Java is less dynamic in nature. Next is it use indentation to separate code into blocks. You can say this is the only one syntax condition of Python. It requires indentation. Indentation, I will cover one slide in detail today how to understand the indentation, but here you can understand indentation means a blank space, blank tab, blank you can say more than one space. When you want to differentiate one block of code with another block of code, you need to give some blank space before the starting of the code. It uses brackets to separate code into block. Python does not use any brackets. As I shown you in the previous program, here opening bracket, closing bracket, opening bracket, closing brackets are required. But in Python, there is no concept of using brackets. You simply indent the block and it will understand automatically at runtime that a new block has been started. Proper opening indentation and closing indentation is need to be taken care of in Python, but in Java you can do it with the help of brackets. C and C++ also supports brackets but no indentation. Python is easy to learn. As I have already told you, Python language is easy to learn because it is more user friendly. The code is not so much case sensitive or hard based syntax, but it requires more time to understand as compared to Python. Java needs more time to understand as compared to Python. It has simple and consistent syntax. The syntax is very easy, consistent syntax is there, no much case sensitivity or the specific name of the methods defined within the language are required. It is very simple in nature and consistent, but it is having a complex syntax. As I shown you in the previous example, if a capital S is required within the bracket of main function string argument, then capital S will be there, otherwise an error will come. It helps beginners to concentrate on problem decomposition and data type design. Means you can simply break the problem into sub problems and solve them separately, and then you can combine their result to get it back. But here beginners spend their initial days on learning to declare and use data variable. So much time is being wasted in understanding how to declare the variable, how to store value in a variable, such kind of things. It is concise, compact and clean looking syntax, but it does not have compact or clean looking syntax. The print statement automatically inserts spaces and new line character, but here /n or a space is required to insert a space or a new line character. So these are the last difference between Python and Java. Python automatically insert the blank spaces or new line character whenever required, but in Java or C or C++, you need to declare it separately. Few reserved words of Python I have used here. Every language has some reserved words. A reserved word is generally a keyword that means something to the language. which has a specific meaning which is to be understood by the language. In other words, you cannot use a reserved word as the name of a variable. These are the fixed words. You cannot declare your own variable by using any of these words. These are the keywords or reserved words in Python. You cannot use these words to declare the name of a function or a class or a module. All the Python keywords contain lowercase letters only. No capital letter or capital characters can be used as a reserved word in Python. So the different reserved words are and, assert, break, class, continue, define, delete, elif, else. Elif means else if. Combined together, make it as elif. Accept, execute, finally, for, from, global, if, import, in, is, lambda. This is a very important function we will cover in the next class. It is generally called as a anonymous function. So then note, or, pass, print, raise, return, try, while, with and yield. These are few of the Python reserved words or the keywords which are not used to declare any variable or a function or a module or a class. Now, how to take input from? I have shown you how to print output on the screen. To take input from user, the input function or you can say input method is used. You simply write the name of the variable. As you can see here, I have written the name as name. The variable name is name. Name is not a reserved word or a keyword. So I simply use, I can write anything here, a single character or a string with any, my name can be used as the name of a variable. Then input. Input is like scanf statement in C language or cin statement in C++ language. So the input, now you can see the difference why Python is called as beginner's language. You want to take some input from the keyboard, so the function name is simply input. Anybody can understand the input is used to take input from the keyboard. But scanf, cin, these are the some complex words which you need to understand what are their use and functionalities. Also, these inbuilt methods require some header files to be included in the program before the main function, otherwise these function will not work. Like iostream.h is the header file in C++ language, stdio and conio.h are the header files to be included in the C language if you want to execute this scanf function. So you need to understand very carefully, Python does not need any inbuilt complex function names or any header files required to include. Now this input function will prompt a message on the screen, enter your name, and a blinking cursor or a underscore character will be there. That means the system is waiting from the user to write some name. Then this print statement, I have used two print function here. First print function will say welcome to YouTube live session, comma, name. Now I have written enter your name as Vikas. So the Vikas will be stored in the variable name, that is name, and here the first message will be printed, welcome to YouTube live session, name. Here a new line here. The second variable which I have declared is age. Again the input function is used here and the message on the screen will be printed as enter age. No semicolon etc. are required. You can see here no semicolons are required when you are finishing a line, but semicolons are required in C or C++ or other programming languages. So say I have entered age as 38 and I have entered name as Vikas. So first message will be printed on the screen as welcome to YouTube live session Vikas. Then again Vikas, because name store the variable which I have entered through this input function, Vikas, then this plus, it is a concatenation operator which is used to merge a variable with a string or you can say constant value. Then is, because it is written in inverted comma, so it will be treated as a normal text. So Vikas is now age. I have entered age as 38. So Vikas is 38 old. Old is again, because it is written in inverted comma, so it will be considered as a normal text. So Vikas is 38 old. Simply the second output will be printed here. So this is the taking input from the user. So you can check or execute this program on pythontutor.com website. I have already shown you the demonstration of Python tutor in the previous classes. You can check the previous YouTube live streams to understand the concept of how to run programs on pythontutor.com. Okay, there is one sample example I am covering today. It is the screenshot of a Python tutor website. Here I have to write a Python program to convert distance from kilometer to miles. So here you will see how to use various print function or input function or some other functions. So first of all, I have written a comment because it is starting with the hash symbol, collect input from the user. So it is just for the programmer's point of view. It will not be compiled or it will not be interpreted and will not be displayed on the screen. So kilometers, this is the first variable I have declared. I want to take floating point value here. So I have written float keyword here. Then within the bracket input. Input is the function which is used to take input. How many kilometers? This is the message that will be printed on the screen. So a message with how many kilometers will be printed on the screen. As you see here, how many kilometers? I have given 8. So this value 8 will be stored in the kilometers variable. Now again one more comment, conversion factor. This is the factor which is used to convert a kilometer into miles. As we know, 1 kilometer is equal to 0.621371 mile. This is the semantic or logic of the program. You need a conversion factor which is used to convert the given number of kilometers into the required number of miles. So I know the conversion factor for 1 kilometer to 1 mile is 0.62137. So I have taken another variable miles which will store the result of this operation, kilometer into conversion factor. I have given 8 kilometer and the conversion factor is 0.621371. So up to 3 decimal point I want to print it. So as you can see here, percent. This percent is used to print the output, percent kilometer comma miles. So 8 kilometer is equal to 4.971 mile. Because I want to print the 3 after decimal parameters, so it will print 4.971. If I will put it as a 0.4f, then 4 number of digits will come after decimal, but here I am just writing 3. So 8.000 is again having the 3 decimal factors and 4.971 is again having 3 decimal factor. So this is a sample program to understand the use of how to define the data type of a variable, how to take input from the keyboard. So different kind of data types are there. I have already shown you the example: integer, floating point, textual, logical. The examples of these kind of data types are int, you can use complex numbers, floating point numbers, strings or booleans. So you can use any of these kind of data types in your program. Now type conversion, it is very important topic, how to convert the type from one type to another. So you have to understand it very carefully. Conversion of data type of a variable from one type to another. So you have declared a variable as integer, or simply you have stored some value within a variable as of integer type. You want to change its type from integer to long integer or from integer to floating point integer. So some built-in types are available in Python which are used to do the type conversion in Python. So conversion of data types of a variable from one to another. Following are the few built-in types available to convert between types. Number 1, int a. Suppose I have stored a value in a as a is equal to 7.5. I have stored some integer floating point value within a. Now I want to convert. While declaring the value to a is equal to 7.5, no data type declaration was required for this variable a. But when I need to convert it into integer, this built-in data type or built-in type is required to convert a into integer from floating point value. So int a, it will convert a to an integer. Say I want to convert it into long integer, means the size should be long. It can store a large size number. Then I simply do the long built-in type, and within the bracket the name of the variable which I want to convert. I want to convert it into floating point, as it is already in floating point, so it will remain same. But by default, after decimal, 3 decimal values will come. Then complex, I want to convert it into a complex number, or I want to create it into a complex number. Then I have to give the syntax like this. First the real part, then within the bracket with a comma you need to write the imaginary part. You need to remember the format of this particular built-in type. You need to use the keyword complex, then within the bracket real, then the imaginary part. The next is STRA. It converts object A to a string representation. So it will make this A into a string type. So eval A, it evaluates a string and returns an object. So to enter string A and evaluate A, they will convert the value of A into string object, and then it can evaluate it. Now next is tuple. You want to convert a simple data type into a tuple or list or set or dictionary. Simple, the function names are, as we already used, these are the immutable and mutable data structures available in Python. So you can convert a simple variable of either integer type or floating type or character type directly into a mutable or immutable data structure by using the built-in types tuple, list, set and dict. DICT is used for dictionary. So it will convert A into a tuple or a list or a set or a dictionary. As you know, the dictionary contain key and value of tuples. So it will store the data in the form of key value pair. So this is the type conversion. Now you need to understand the indentation. As I have shown you the previous example where indentation was not required because there was no more than one blocks available in the program. But now here you need to understand Python's indentation. You can say it is the syntax of Python. You need to understand this syntax category of Python. Python use offside rule notation for coding. This indentation is sometimes called as offside rule notation, which is required to code or to write the program in Python. Now it uses indentation for different blocks instead of any kind of a bracket. It does not use such kind of curly braces. These curly braces are generally used in C or C++ or Java programming language, but Python does not require such kind of curly braces. So it uses indentation for blocks, not any kind of curly braces. The delimiter followed in Python is a colon. As like there is a semicolon at the end of every line in C or C++ or Java programming language, but in Python there is not much requirement of such kind of delimiters like this semicolon. But a simple delimiter colon is used, and indented spaces or tabs are used as the delimiter in Python. So I will show you with the help of example. A example is given here. This is an example of a Python program showing the use of delimiter, colon and the indentation for different block. Simply I have written x is equal to 3. This is the very first line of the programming code. It means the x will be declared the data type as integer and it is storing a value 3 as the constant in x. Now if x greater than 5, observe this line, a colon is appearing at the end of this line and the condition of if is x is greater than 5 or not. Here in this particular case I have stored the value of x is equal to 3. So here if condition fails, so I will simply jump to the else block. Again this else contains the delimiter colon because it represents to the interpreter that a new block has been started. Now you can observe the blank space after if and starting of print. You need to observe the difference between the starting line of if and print or simply starting line of else and print. There is a blank space, either one tab or one simple blank space of keyboard. So this is called as indentation. If you simply write the code below this code, no blank space inserted, then it will show an error because the interpreter will not understand how the new block has started or finished. So if x greater than 5, it will print true and the value of x. Otherwise it will go to the false case. Else block is here, it will print the output as false and print out of if block. A message out of if block will be printed. So here the output will be false and the next line out of if block. If it was less than greater than 2, in that case the if condition became true and the output will be true and x values 3. In that case it will be printed. Now coming to the next very quick revision about different type of operators in Python. I will not cover all the operators in detail. I will just give you a very quick one line introduction about all the operators within this slide itself. So there are 7 type of operators in Python. Number 1, arithmetic operators which are used to do arithmetic operations in Python like addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Then relational operator, the relational operators are like operators less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to or equal to. They define the relationship not equal to, less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to. Assignment operators are used to assign any value or a constant value to a variable. Single equal assignment operator or double equal assignment operators are used. Bitwise operator, like they perform operations on bits and if not. Logical operators are like logical and, double ampersand symbol is used. Logical or, logical not. These are used to check the logic between binary numbers like AND gate, OR gate, NOT gate you have studied. Then membership operator is or not is. Is means a particular element is a member of a set or dictionary or it is not a member. Then identity operator, it is used to identify whether a member is belonging to a particular set. So in and not in. So you need to understand the difference. Is, not is, in, not in. These are the unique operators which are not available in generally other high level programming languages. Now one important kind of data structure in Python I want to cover is multidimensional list. As we covered in the previous classes that lists are used in Python, but as like arrays we can define multiple or multidimensional list, which means list within the list. It is a unique kind of a data structure which is used to store the data in more than one dimension, like 2 dimension, 3 dimension or x number of dimension. So here you can see I have declared a list with value x. Now why it is list? Because square brackets are used here. That is why the interpreter will understand that it is a list data structure. So now this list is containing 4 sublists within it. Within the list X, there are 4 sublists defined in it. Very first is 2 4, then 6 8, then 5 9, then 4 1. The 4 lists are there. Now I want to print different elements of these lists. First, print X2. It means now I want to print the element stored at index value 2 within the list X. As you know, the by default index starts from 0, 1, 2 and 3. So the element stored at index 2 is 5 9. So this print X2 will print the output as 5 9. This is only one variable I have given. It is a multi-dimensional list. Here I just given only one dimension. So all elements at that dimension are printed. Now I want to print 2 dimension. Print X3 1. So 0 1 2 3. So I go on to the 4th column, then 0 1. This is 0th, this is first. So this is 1. So this particular item 3 1, item stored at index 3 1, whether you are going from column 1 to column n or you are going from column row 1 to row n, index always starts from 0. So when I'm just making a matrix here which will represent this particular. So this is a matrix. This is 0 0, 0 1, 1 0, 1 1, 2 0, 2 1, 3 0, 3 1. So this is the matrix for this particular list. It is a multi-dimensional list. So element stored at this location is 2, 4. Here next element is 6, 8. Next element is 5, 9. And the here element stored is 4 and 1. So this 1 will be printed here. So it is a simple 2-dimensional array. You can create 3-dimensional list, 4-dimensional list, etc. Now the last one, it will show you the error. I want to print the element at second location in row and second in column. Here 0 1 2. This is the second row, but column is only up to 0 1. So it will print an index error because this location in this 2-dimensional list is not available. You can simply compare it with the 2-dimensional array in either C or C++ or Java programming language. Here the matrix is of 4 by 2. 4 by 2 size matrix is given. The index goes from 0 1 2 3 for this 4 and 0 1 for this 2. So this second location will not be identified and the output will be index error, list index out of range. So this will be the output printed on the screen for this print command. Okay, now the last topic which I will just cover today is the function and a factorial example. So let's finish it. We can use functions in Python as like other programming languages. The syntax to define a function is def keyword, def. This is the keyword which is used to define a function. Then you need to write the function name. Within the bracket is the parameter list, and at last you need to give the delimiter, that is colon symbol. Then the comment should be there, whether you want to write comment or not, or simply write the code for the function body, and the return expression. The expression is optional, that is why it is written in square bracket. So the parameters which is given in the definition of the function within the bracket of the function name, the parameter exhibits positional behavior, hence should be passed in the same order as in the function definition. So if you are passing one character, or one integer type of parameter, then the order between the calling function and called function should be same. So function definition has def keyword followed by function name, function parameters or argument within the parentheses followed by colon. Colon is given here. Then indented blocks of code. Indentation should be there. The function body, you can observe the blank space here. The function body is done with the help of indentation, otherwise indentation error will be printed. The functions are invoked by a function call statement which may be part of some another function. So calling. Let's take an example. I have defined a function print str and the argument pass is str1. Now this str1 will store the value which is passed from here. First I simply printed the output as with the help of print function. This function prints string passed as an argument. So this line will be printed. This function prints string passed as an argument. Now this is the second line of output. In the PPT it just came in the first line when I was copying, but this is the output from this print statement. Calling the user defined function print str1. So this complete string will be stored in the variable str1, and this complete string calling the user defined function print str will be passed as an argument here, and this print statement will print the second line of output and then the return with no parameter being passed here. There is no expression in this return statement. So here you just need to understand, simply I have defined a function with the name print str. Within the bracket the variable name I have chosen str1. It will store the value str1 here, and this will be passed here, and the both values will be printed here. Okay, the last example is the defining a factorial using recursion. So I have defined a function fact n. The only one value will be passed here, and it will return 1 if the value of n is either 1 or 0, because you know the factorial of 0 or 1 is always 1. Otherwise it will go to else case. If the value of n is not 1 and not 0, then it will simply call the function itself. That is why it is called as recursion. Fact is calling fact, but with the parameter 1 less than the given parameter. So it will go from n minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 3 up to when it will reach to 1 or 0. Say simply I have given the value of num as 5. So it will print like 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which will become 120, because the factorial of 5 is 120. So the output will be printed here for this program is, this is the program. I have passed the value of num 5, factorial of num is then 120. So factorial of 5 is 120. So this is another example of function where I am using recursion to find the factorial. Okay students, so these are the few practice questions. You can have a screenshot of this page. You can perform these programs or these simple theoretical questions for preparation of your final exam. So the practice questions are take two input from user and check whether they are equal or not. Explain with the help of Python program. Here you need to write a Python program. This is your homework. So you have to perform it by yourself. Second is compare Python with the other high level programming languages. Today I have done it with the help of Java. So you can do with Java or C or C++. Third is what will be the output of this code. A code is given here. You need to check the output of this code. Simply write this code in the pythontutor.com and see its output. So thank you very much students. This was the topic for today's class. I have given a quick introduction about what are the basic functionalities of Python programming language, comparison with Java programming languages, use of functions, use of recursion, type conversion, especially the how to do type conversion in Python. So in the next class day after tomorrow, we'll do the lambda or anonymous function and other important topics of Python class. Till then, thank you very much. Watch all the videos and stay connected. Thank you.